So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Game 6 tonight. We were able to witness the Thunder's relentless storm against the Pacers in Game 5, one that I certainly expected, but not a lot of other people didn't. And that's because Tyrese Halliburton got injured, unfortunately. And they have a flickering flame. They're going to fight tonight for a Game 7. But we'll see. I don't know. With their best player out, their most clutch player this postseason, arguably one of the clutchest playoff runs ever. Without him, I think their chances of winning tonight are very slim, and I think the Thunder will win the title. What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, without him, I really don't see they have much of a shot. I mean, you're going to have to increase the load of TJ McConnell, instead of coming off the bench. And then Siakam's got to take a heavy load on that offensive side. And they just got to hit big shots. You know, Naismith and Nemhard, they got to really step up for, without Tyrese Halliburton. For all that to go right, I just really don't see it happening. Tyrese Halliburton did say he's going to play no matter what. Who knows at what level, with him dealing with, the injury that he's dealing with. But we'll see what happens tonight. But if without him or even at, non-healthy full status Halliburton, I just don't see much coming out of the Pacers tonight.
I would tend to agree with you there. I find it funny, though, this is off topic, but TJ McConnell said, and you're a basketball player yourself, so I want to see if you agree with this, that playing hard is a skill, that not every player does it. Like, I don't see players like TJ McConnell and Russell Westbrook with their effort running around everywhere. So what do you think of his performance at the finals thus far, Charles?
He's my favorite player to watch right now. Him and Caruso. I've said this before, but I'm a big defensive guy. And I 100% agree with McConnell. Playing hard is, you can't just you have to learn it. It's a skill. People can learn it. And it's just it's more or less a mindset that you have to have of, having that bulldog mentality. Like, you're not going to let up. Like, you're going to get that ball no matter what. Like, that ball is yours. And that's something that Caruso and both McConnell have, and it's something that I really enjoy watching their game. Just on the defensive side, I'm going to pick you up full court, no let up. I'm going to wear you down the entire game. And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about Nemhard as well, is he picks up Shea full court, comes back and rises till the entire game, and then comes back and makes clutch shots on the other end of the court. And it's super, super fun to watch, at least from my perspective, just because it's a skill that you have to, it just doesn't come natural, and you gotta learn. And it takes, drive and practice to, really hone that skill. So,
dude, you might be in a bad internet spot because you're zoning in and out. I mean, I could hear you. I will probably get refined in the studio, but just want to let you know that first before we continue on.
Okay.
All right. So here's something that made me raise my eyebrows, and I've heard a lot of criticism about it from other analysts, so to speak. Rick Carlisle withdrew not just Halliburton. I get Halliburton withdrawing him, but all the starters with 151 remained in the game of Game 5. And I think that's a sign of giving up. And as a head coach, you don't want to be like that. Like, with your culture, what you have, this is a team that's been able to come back from literally impossible odds to beat their opponents. With or without Halliburton, they've still got players like Naismith who can maybe go off. I don't know if his luck's already run out. They've still got Nemhard. They've still got their top scorer and number one option, Siakam. And they've still got the guy who's not living up to what his performances normally are, Miles Turner. Well, he did have 5 blocks in that one game, but offensively, he's not been as good. And I don't know. I just did not like that decision by Rick Carlisle. I know he's a championship head coach. I'm not. But what do you think of that, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, it was a clear sign of giving up. I was kind of disappointed when I saw it. But I mean, it's a risky move, but he's trying to set the tone for that. He's trying to, make it clear that, we got to step up the next game. And hopefully, him taking out those starters sends a message to, their core pieces that, hey, we got to step up. We can't be down in a game like this when we were leading for, most of the game. We have to step up. And so I'm hoping, they receive that message, play a lot better tonight. But it's, it's a risky move because, the Pacers have come back down from, bigger deficits and less time. And so you're kind of wondering, like, hey, why didn't, Carlisle, at least give them a chance to do it again? But, he's trying to send a message. It's a risky one, but it might pay off. We'll see.
I don't know. Even if the Pacers do force a Game 7. Oh, you good?
Crap. I got a phone call. My bad.
Even if the Pacers do force a Game 7, with and without their best player at full power, I think the Thunder are going to win the finals. And if they do win the finals, which I predicted them to win in 6, by the way, do you think if SGA wins this finals MVP, and wins the first title for this franchise in Oklahoma City, that he is the greatest Oklahoma City player ever? Or do you still think it's either between Russ and KD?
That's a good question. I mean, all three of those have an MVP for OKC, right? And I think overall career wise, KD and Russ are better than Shea. However, if we're talking about just your stints in OKC, if he brings in this title, he's already won an MVP. He'll win finals MVP for them if they win the championship. And within, I mean, what has it been, 4 or 5 years that Shea's been on the OKC? I mean, he's going to bring exactly what they've hoped in their, 20 years that OKC's been around. And so, yes, I would think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would be the greatest OKC player of all time, as far as bringing them the ultimate goal that every player wants and every team strives for. So I agree with that statement.
I personally am of the opinion that I think if SGA wins the finals this year and finals MVP, this is the greatest Thunder single season of all time and greatest Thunder single season of all time. But I think Russell Westbrook as a whole is the greatest OKC player of all time. And here's why. He didn't just impact winning. And yeah, he did have Durant. And without Durant, he didn't do too well. But he got average a triple-double. He won MVP. Then he had to get Paul George and he didn't do too well. But it was his relationship with the fan base that I think really solidified it for me. That's why I think he's the greatest Thunder player of all time. I've kind of taken Durant out of the situation because of the fact that he left for the team that they were up 3-1 against and lost to. I think conceding and joining the enemy was stupid. But that's just my opinion on that. Would you agree that Russell Westbrook would be above Kevin Durant as a Thunder player?
I would say so. He played, longer, I think a little bit longer. I could be wrong, but I think it's at least he played probably 2 or 3 seasons longer than KD did for the OKC. Don't fact check me. But as far as like career and, statistics wise, which, I think I agree with you. I think KD is the lesser of the two between Westbrook and KD.
All right, well, let's take a tactical timeout real quick. So we've seen throughout this series, this is probably one of the best finals chess matchups I've seen in a while, and there's been a lot of buzz around it. The reason most fans don't like it though is because a lot of the casuals who are like, oh, it's not one of the two of the big name teams like the Warriors, Cavs, Celtics, Lakers, any of that. But the Pacers against the Thunder is one of the best matchups purely because the pace. Both these teams were ranked first and second in pace in the league, and going against each other, it's interesting because on offense, I called that Indiana was going to use not Tyrese, Pascal Siakam more as a ball handler, because in his later years with Toronto, that's what he had to be because Kyle Lowry left, Fred VanVleet wasn't that good, and he did make an All-Star the year before Pascal left, but majority of the time Pascal acted as a point guard. And they've been able to do that. What they've been able to do is they've been having this 3-man action between Halliburton and Nembhard and Siakam, when they have, pardon my drawing here, they have Pascal Siakam right here at the elbow with the ball, and it's a little bit of a split action between Tyrese and Nembhard where let's just do a cross. It's like the triangle offense kind of. But what Tyrese does and what he was able to do effectively in this series was move well without the ball, something we don't see because he's typically the top playmaker. And that's allowed a lot of scoring options, which the Pacers were able to take advantage of. But with Tyrese having that hurt ankle, it's really put them on stilts and they feel like they're going to fall down right now. And the Thunder have done an incredible job matching the Pacers' speed with speed. And not just that, they're kind of bigger and lankier. You got Chet Holmgren, you got Isaiah Hartenstein, and then you got Alex Caruso, like you said, who's making all those all-out effort plays and is just strong enough to guard players like Siakam. And I think for the Pacers, this is just like one of the worst mismatches they could have asked for. And against teams that switch on defense, because the Thunder started switching for the first time in this series last night, as opposed to man-to-man, against switching, the Pacers typically averaged a 103.4. But because of the Thunder's speed, mobility, and size, the Pacers have averaged a measly 68 offensive rating. That's 30 points below the regular season's worst shooting team in the NBA, the Hornets, which is absurd to me. And in these past 2 games, it's really shown because Indiana did have the chance to close out a home victory and go up 3-1, and they threw it because the Thunder were able to use their speed for speed. I want to talk Shedeur Sanders. This is moving on from the NBA real quick. Shedeur Sanders was recently pulled over for going 104 miles per hour on the road. And I don't know if this was drunk or not. There have not been full details released yet. But I think this is not. This is one of those situations where this is the last thing he wanted. He's had so many critics on his personality recently. And that's the reason he dropped down to fourth round. And he has all this pressure if he's the guy. He's the little underdog story. But when something like this happens, the media is going to throw that narrative off, and obviously bad things are going to happen. So I think Shedeur right now is in a pretty tough situation. Definitely one of the lower ones he wanted. He does not need to be going that fast. He does not need to be super speeding. I don't know. He could get arrested depending on what the state's laws are. Also, approved in 2025, there's a landmark settlement that allows schools to pay athletes directly with revenue sharing models potentially reaching $40 million for football rosters. I'm not a fan of this. I'm really not a fan of giving teenagers millions of dollars. And considering Ohio State's Lamborghini team last year cost $25 million, really not a fan of this. But I think the NCAA will figure out a way. I am going to hope that Nick Saban, my hero, my football hero, will go in and put a cap on NIL and figure this mess out. But anyway, now on to the infamous session. Everybody's favorite session, the famous Charlie's Chalk. All right. We're going to do the top 10 finals MVP performances. At number 10, and this is controversial, I have Kevin Durant's 2017 finals performance. He averaged 35.2 points per game, 8.2 rebounds per game, 5.4 assists per game, 1 steal per game, 1.6 blocks per game, on a 55% field goal percentage and 47% three-point percentage in 5 games. So his efficient scoring and clutch three-pointer in Game 3 have put him on this list. His 43-point performance in Game 3 was also a defining moment. But it's because he's at 10 because of the absolutely loaded roster that Warriors team had. They had the first unanimous MVP ever in NBA history, the defensive player of the year and the runner-up for the past 2 years, and the second best three-point shooter in the league, and a finals MVP. They were already set to win it. And he scored so efficiently in the paint because the Cavs were so busy guarding all those shooters around. All right, next up. At number 9, we got Nikola Jokic's 2023 performance, where he averaged 30.2 points per game, 14.5 rebounds, 7 assists, 1.4 blocks per game on a 58% field goal percentage in 5 games. So in Game 3, he recorded the finals' first ever 30-point, 20 rebound, 10 assist triple-double. And he controlled the pace of the entire series. Without him, they would have been crushed. He's a 3-time MVP. I don't need to go on more about him. But against that insanely spirited Heat team, he was able to perform up to what he needed to. Number 8, and you could argue this should be higher, ignoring the numbers, which he averaged 28.6 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, but on a measly 40% field goal percentage, and you'll see why. Kobe Bryant is at number 8 for his 2010 performance. But he did it in 7 games against one of the best defenses you've seen, because this is at Kevin Garnett's peak. He still has a great two-way game, and then he had to go against Paul Pierce and everything. But he battled that stingy defense, grabbing 15 rebounds in a gritty Game 7, 83-79 win. And his lockdown defense on Ray Allen and clutch fourth quarter scoring Game 7 helped the Lakers secure the title, and his 5th and probably best title ever for Kobe Bryant, at least. But that is one of the roughest series I've ever seen been played. 7, we've got Dwayne Wade's 2006 Finals MVP performance with 34.7 points per game, 78.8 rebounds per game, 0.8 assists per game, whopping 2.7 steals per game, and 46% field goal percentage in 6 games. By the way, he was 24 years old in this series, and he led a 2-0 comeback, averaging nearly 40 points in games 3 through 6. John Morant, the year he went to the second round against the Warriors, was 24. That's the type of player this guy is. He could be. I think I hear a lot of Anthony Edwards critics saying he can be compared to Michael Jordan. I think his comparison is really Dwayne Wade, but that's just me. But for such a young guy, Dwayne Wade had to lead that team to a championship. And yes, he did have the veteran Shaq, who encouraged him to go out and tear up the Mavericks to shreds. Number 6, We have Giannis Antetokounmpo's 2020. He averaged 35.2 points per game, 13.2 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, 2.2 steals per game, 1.8 blocks per game on 62% field goal percentage in 6 games. Woo! He did this coming off a hyperextended knee and down 0-2 in the series. And he had arguably the greatest closeout performance in the history of the NBA Finals with a 50-point, 14 rebound, 5 block game. And an inexplicable 17 of 19 from the free throw line. His free throws were what were getting him absolutely destroyed by fans. So it's incredible that he was able to do this. All right, number 5, we've got Hakeem Olajuwon's 1995 performance. He averaged 32.8 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, 2 steals per game, 2 blocks per game, 48% field goal percentage in 4 games. But he did this against peak athleticism Shaq. That's how he averaged those defensive numbers against Shaquille O'Neal. And this was a fat Shaq. This was fast, big Shaq. And he had a rare 3-pointer in game 4, by the way, to help seal finals. But still, the fact that Hakeem could do that against that caliber of player was incredible. All right, number 4, we've got Tim Duncan's 2003 Finals MVP performance. This is not biased. He averaged 24.2 points per game, 17 rebounds per game. That's crazy. 5.3 assists per game, and a finals record 5.3 blocks per game, 49.5% field goal percentage in 6 games. And in game 6, the series sealing game, he got a near quadruple double in the finals with a 21 rebound, 10 assist, 8 block game that sealed the Spurs title against a defensively stout Nets team. That Nets team was a slouchy team either. They had Richard Jefferson, they had Jason Kidd. So that's incredible to me. I don't think we'll see that again for a while unless somehow Wembanyama repeats the same thing, which I have no doubt that he can. Number 3, we have 2000 Shaq, his first finals appearance with the Lakers. He averaged 38 points per game, 16.7 rebounds per game, 2.3 assists per game, 2.7 blocks per game on 61% field goal percentage. Those stats need no further explanation. And in game 1, he opened up with a 43 point 19 rebound game. That really set the tone for the series. The numbers speak for themselves. I'll put it that way. Number 2, and you could argue that this is the greatest finals performance of all time, but I don't know. I just put it here because I felt like number 1 was far better in terms of what he did it against. But number 2, we have 2016 LeBron James. He averaged 29.7 points per game, 11.3 rebounds per game, 8.9 assists per game, 2.6 steals per game, 2.3 blocks per game. He's the first player to ever lead both teams in all 5 major stat categories of points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in a series. And he did this against the 73-9 Warriors, the best 3-point shooting team in NBA history, the best regular season team in NBA history, the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. And he had back-to-back 41-point performances in games 5 and 6. All right. Number 1 on Charlie's chalkboard for best finals performances ever, we have Michael Jordan's 1993 performance. He averaged a finals record 41 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 6.3 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, 50% field goal percentage, 40% three-point percentage in 6 games. And he scored a finals record 55 points in game 4. This was against Charles Barkley. MVP Charles Barkley he did this against. That's incredible. Nothing more needs to be said about that. You could argue that this type of performance solidifies Jordan as the GOAT, but that's incredible. All right, well, that's it from Charlie's chalkboard, and that's it from the cheap seats. Tune in next time.